You're listening to the Radio Wammo Breakfast, only on Kiwi.
Let's now talk green issues, environmental issues, that kind of stuff, environmental politics with Russell Norman, co-leader of the Greens this morning. Morning, Russell.
Morning, Wammo.
Now, first up, just while I remember, I just received a call from one of our listeners in Thames this morning, who's been an eagle eye, and I think he spotted a press release from you guys yesterday that said that National are planning on abandoning the fuel-efficient cars initiative for the importation of cars. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is right.
What's the background on this initiative in the first place?
Under the last government, we were putting pressure on Labor to adopt fuel efficiency standards for imported vehicles into New Zealand.
Right.
It's the simplest way to reduce emissions in New Zealand, actually. It produces the biggest bang for the buck. And the other side of it is that it reduces our dependence on oil, which is great because we've got a problem. So the problem is the last government came under tremendous pressure from the Australian car manufacturers not to adopt fuel efficiency standards, and the Ministry of Transport were pushing back quite hard on it because they don't want to. But it looked like the work stream was underway, and it looked like we might make some progress depending on our bargaining power. Now, the new government has come in and basically stopped the work stream on introducing fuel efficiency standards, so it's not even going anywhere. It's just a complete no-brainer.
What's their reasoning? Have they given a reason for this?
It's just the usual stuff around their anti-regulation, supposedly. Because
they reckon it's red tape or something.
Yeah, and it's the thing is that what you do is you say to car importers, you have to meet an average fuel efficiency for all your imports. So if you need to import some cars that are fuel inefficient, then you can do that. But on average, across all the cars you import, they've got to meet these basic fuel efficiency standards. Because our cars are, produce, they're far more, they use almost twice as much fuel as the Europeans to go the same distance on average. So it's an easy thing to do, and we should obviously do it.
So you'll be putting pressure on, no doubt, to get that. I mean, it almost seems like, one step forward, two step backwards with these scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, it's just straight backwards. There's no going forward. It's just stupid. It's just stupid policy. But, there's... you got to look at it. What's in our national interest is to reduce our oil import bill, which is in the order of 7 to 8 billion at the top of the last round of price, the highest point of the prices for oil, and our greenhouse emissions, which have gone up very significantly in transport since the late 90s. So, this is a way to address both of those issues at once.
Well, talking about things that sort of going backwards, I suppose, there was a great initiative put out by New World to charge for plastic bags in order, as a way of getting people to either bring their own bags or use less plastic bags. And I've certainly noticed in the New World that I'm going to, people are using less plastic bags. However, the lower half of the North Island, you have a bunch of idiots complaining about this, and now they're not charging for them at all, and anyone can get as many plastic bags as they want. That was a step backwards, surely.
Yeah, I'd say that was a step backwards. No question, that was a step backwards.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Really?
Well, it's hard to figure out. What we don't know is what was the real level of complaint. I mean, I've been reading the comments from the Wellington region manager of New World or whatever, and it doesn't really look like there were huge complaints, and the other regions aren't actually. They're not going backwards on it. So I don't know.
Let's also be clear about this: is that people were worried about that New World were going to be profiting from this, and that every 5 cents they were going to cash in their bank, but apparently it was going to charity.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what they decided to do was the money that they took from that they were giving to charity, and so. I think it was good what they did, and it did reduce plastic bag consumption very dramatically.
Do you feel like
that?
Yeah. Do you feel like that when these sort of things happen, pack up, go home, because New Zealand just isn't ready to be growing up about things and look after the environment around us and save it for future generations. We're just not ready for it. We may as well just give up, forget about it.
I don't think so. I mean, I think it was probably a pretty small minority that actually complained. I think the Wellington area manager for New World has completely overreacted, and I think he should have just stuck it out. People will get used to it. But the other side of it is that central government should simply mandate a 5 or 10 cent charge. It's what they do everywhere else. It's the simplest thing to do. It means you have a fair system and a consistent system for all supermarkets.
When you say they do that everywhere else, where do they do that?
They do it in other countries. They do it in parts of Australia. They certainly do it in Ireland. They do it in a number of countries where they just have a consistent charge. It's the simplest way to do it. I mean, other places ban them outright, but I mean, just a simple charge actually reduces consumption dramatically.
Yeah.
And it means that you don't have one supermarket, kind of trying to compete with another or worried about losing customers because of a 5 cent charge, which is frankly hard to believe.
Well, the thing is that they've been doing this at Pack and Save since Pack and Save started. You've always charged for plastic bags. Or you bring a cardboard box, or you fill your stuff, put all your groceries in a cardboard box or a bag that you bring. But and those supermarkets are full all the time. You don't see those customers complaining. And
the warehouse is the same. It's just, I mean, I think it's a pretty easy thing to do. I mean, I think they backed down too early, and it's only one part of the country. And I think that central government should simply mandate it, because that's the simplest way to do it. Yeah, I mean, maybe a bunch of National Party MPs, on their visits to Wellington all went to the supermarket and complained or something. It seems very peculiar.
Maybe they were on their way to prospecting. Apparently, Jerry Brownlee's going prospecting on dock land. Yes, he's going mining, apparently. What's going on here, Russell?
Well, after picking up their free plastic bags, they're off to the dock estate to dig it up and take samples back to see where they want to mine.
Well, at least they'll be recycling. That's a good thing, I suppose.
Yeah, digging up the conservation estate. Yeah, that's a real bright move to impress overseas people about how we're clean and green and 100% pure. Getting into the... Go on.
Well, I was just saying the argument there is that there's a bunch of resources tied up in there, and it could make us rich. And then we could be a rich and prosperous country if we dug up all our dock land. What do you think?
Well, I think that in the long term, we're going to be rich and prosperous based on sustainable industries, which mining isn't. It's a short-term thing whereby you convert natural capital into consumption goods and then consume them, and then you have nothing. So there's that part of it. But the other side of it is that I think the conservation estate is it's like we're guardians of it. It was handed down to us from the people that came before us who fought long and hard to protect that place. And our job is to be guardians of it and pass it on to the next generation, not to dig it up so that we can have more plasma screen TV and pass on big holes to the next generation. It's just ridiculous.
That's actually a really good point. Do you think future generations are going to look back through the history books and go, Jerry Brownlee, what a great guy, All that precision pinpoint mining that he did on the West Coast, we're so much better off for it. Thank you, Jerry Brownlee, for what you did back in 2009. Fantastic. Good stuff. Well done.
I mean, the tragedy is, of course, Labor opened the door on this one with the mining of Mount Augustus, where they got rid of an entire species which only lived on Mount Augustus. Happy Valley. You've got to actually draw a line that says, no, we're going to protect these high-value areas. And this is marine reserves Jerry's talking about as well. It's not just even on land. He's proposing opening up Schedule 4, which includes the protection for marine reserves.
Oh, so that's an issue for another day. I'm getting far too angry talking to you this morning, and it's not your fault.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Russell Norman, we'll catch you next time.
All right, thanks very much.
So, co-leader of the Greens, Russell Norman.